And
My brother lives there, so he's always talking about that. The good
yes,
weather.
sir.
Okay, excellent. One moment. Okay, and we are one second, and we are live, brother Captain. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
all for tuning in for a special edition of Off the Record this evening. I have an illustrious guest, brother Captain Chris Muhammad, who is from Oakland. Well, I know him from Oakland, California, but we're going to hear his story today. Walaikum salam, Sister Miriam. Thank you all for watching today. Brother Captain, first of all, assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, sir, brother Captain. When did you first hear the teaching, sir?
Well, it's a pretty funny story. Uh, I was just about to go into high school. I was in 1969. My second oldest brother, at my mother's home in Altadena, California, we had what we called the back house where the boys stayed. Myself, brother student minister Imam Muhammad,
Yes,
and
sir.
my second oldest brother Mark stayed in the back. Well, Mark had went to the Bay Area to visit a friend, and while he was in the Bay Area, he visited Stanford University, where Brother Billy X, later known as Abdul Rab Muhammad, was teaching the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And, and we went to sleep that night, and he came home in the middle of the night. And when we woke up the next morning, my mother had came out screaming, "Who threw all the bacon and all the pork out of the refrigerator?" And he said, "I did. We don't eat that no more."
Yeah, yes, sir.
That was my first interaction with Islam based on the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how to eat to live.
Excellent. And what was it? Why did you accept the teaching, sir?
I accepted the teachings long before I started functioning. You know, as we would say, I had one foot on a banana peel and one foot in the grave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was a slippery slope at that time, but I'd always, when I heard the teachings, I started processing about 1972, 73, while I was in high school at Muhammad's Holy Temple in Pasadena. My brothers would get me to go down there with them, but you know, due to the fact that I was still young and in high school, I had a lot of things going on, so I never finished processing at that time. And as you know, circumstances would have it, the nation fell in 75. So I just was, you know, living a life of a lost found at that time, you know. But
Yes,
I
sir.
would hear the teachings, I believed the teachings, I would hear the tapes of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and you know, it was just something that, you know, you couldn't deny it. It was there, you know, and it was real.
Excellent. And peace, Naima, to you as well. And thank you all for watching. But brother Captain, how prior to 75, what was the climate like when you went to the temple at that time? Like how was that?
It was an intense atmosphere but the militancy and the camaraderie, you could see the camaraderie, you could feel the genuine desire for progress from the brothers and sisters in the temple.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, and it was something you would gravitate to. It was not hard to accept. You know, it was so plain and true that, you know, to hear that, man, I knew something was wrong. The white man is the devil. I mean, that was the teaching.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
that was the teaching, and it was easy to believe due to the circumstances that were going on in our lives.
Yes, sir.
That we were always on the bottom. You know, and every teacher I had at that time, going from elementary to junior high school to high school, were Caucasian women who tried to suppress anything of growth in you that you would try to aspire to. They suppressed that in you. They didn't want to see that happen.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, it was an easy teaching to grasp onto.
Yes, sir. Okay, so fast forward now. The Most High Mr. Farrakhan is rebuilding the nation. What was it about? How did that come about? You falling back in? Was it a brother, a song? Like, how did that happen?
Well, brother, watching my brother Abdul Iman talk with you, we had pretty similar circumstance where he said he lost a very close friend to death.
Yes,
I
sir.
did the same thing. And mine came about because of a brother that I was very close to, and we did worldly things. But I was drifting away from that to the nation. And he told me the night he was murdered, he told me, brother, I'm going to invest in you as an investor to do worldly things. I'll put it like that.
Yes.
Brothers on the streets would say he's gonna put me down,
yes, sir.
so that I
yes,
can
sir.
redo, and
Yes, sir.
and get rolling, or be a part of that world. And I left his home. We were watching a Monday night football game. I left his home to go have dinner at my sister's house, and got a phone call about 2 hours later that he had been murdered. So I went up to his home, and the police and everybody was there, and his girlfriend said, "You didn't hear the gunshots?" She said, "Soon as I walked out the front door, they were kicking in the back door with shotguns." But you know how it is back in the day when you turn the ignition on in your car, that music comes up, bang! So no, I didn't hear nothing, and I thought it was a prank at first, but when I got there, I saw it was real, And so, as my brother said, I believe that Allah saved me and took him, that I might be able to do this work of helping the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. What was your first interaction with the Most Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
I greeted the minister during the dedication of the mosque in Los Angeles on Crenshaw Boulevard. I actually got my mother to come out with me. And it was I believe the title was "Truth Crushed to the Ground Will Rise Again," something of that nature. I can't remember it exactly, but I believe it was 1984.
Yes, sir.
1984 or 83, when he was dedicating the mosque in Los Angeles on Crenshaw Boulevard. And so,
yes,
I mean, it was something that you could just feel the magnetism of him. But prior to that, I went to a lot of his lectures that he was traveling around in the Los Angeles area. One of the most profound lectures at that time for me was "Hard Trials Are Necessary to Establish the Truth."
Yes, sir.
And he did that outside of the Los Angeles International Airport. And I was just blown away, and I used to always say I was that one he was talking to when he said, "Man, when is he gonna finish so I can get back out?" I got something I need to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But that's what it was at that time. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And who was like the minister or captain when you came in? Like who was training you at this time?
Brother Abdul Wali Muhammad, our regional minister at that time. And it was a variety of brothers that were responsible because they had several brothers that would come up and teach. At that time, I was drawn to Brother Randolph X, later becoming Brother Abdul Wazir Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother Bernard Kushmer, as we now know, Brother Jabril Muhammad,
Yes, sir.
played an important role in 1985. I believe he started us with study groups in that mosque in Los Angeles, because we had a balcony and a downstairs floor, and we had study groups back in that day. Early, before the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gets the self-improvement study guide.
Praise be to Allah. My sister Miriam says, thank you for dedicating your life to the mission. We appreciate you and your family sacrifice, Brother Captain. Yes, sir. Then how did you leave LA and get to Oakland? What was the circumstances of that?
Well, myself and a brother in the mosque, Brother George X, we started selling clothes. And we were selling clothes, and it was Mother's Day, 1985. And my sister said, she was living in the Bay Area. She was living in Oakland, working for the telephone company. And I was selling lingerie. And she said, you would do real good up there with this. So I drove up there with a carload of lingerie and t-shirts and sweatsuits. And in a couple of days, I was out. And I flew back to LA, re-upped, went back, and I was going back and forth, till I said, well, I might as well just stay here in Oakland. But I got an apartment across from her apartment and settled in, reported to the mosque, and this was now 1986. And Brother Billy Abdul Rab Muhammad told me, he said, brother, are you going to get your ex before we go to Savior's Day? And I said, my ex? I said, I don't know. He said, brother, you need to get your ex to be in the Lamb's Book of Life. Well, when I started soldiering in Los Angeles in 84, I was soldiering that. I wasn't getting the ex. All I was doing was soldiering. I was teaching FOI class as a processing brother without even an ex. But I guess sometimes natural leadership qualities just rise to the top.
Yes, sir.
And in my humble opinion, I'm not trying to post anything, brother, but I just was soldiering, as my brother Imam was saying, we were selling papers in Pasadena. We were hitting up, people. I had a job that when I went to work, I was selling 100 pounds of fish and maybe 50 bean pies a week on Friday. I had one of the guys in the department had a freezer. So every Friday I would take my fish in and I would take my pies in, and then I would take my papers and I would just give them a paper along with their purchase. And so, yeah, that's how it happened going to the Bay Area. I was doing very well monetarily when I went to the Bay Area. And so I set my roots down there.
Praise be to Allah. Brother Abdul Rab, who's Brother Robert, who used to sell the bean pie in LA, says he registered in 1984. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Chris.
Wa alaikum salam.
And my brother Rashad said, Brother Chris is a soldier. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. Brother Captain, when you were in Oakland, LA, this is like the drugs and violence and gangs. Were you ever afraid for your life and received death threats? And if so, how did you overcome that?
I didn't receive death threats as a part of being in the nation, but I was threatened on many occasions while out in the field selling my wares. I'll tell you this is how I became to know and stop believing in Allah and Master Farrakhan Muhammad. I didn't believe anymore because a brother put a gun in my chest and told me he was going to take everything I had in my life. And I told him, brother, I have something and you have that gun and I'm not going to get hurt. And all I could think about was Master Farad Muhammad and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in my mind. And he
Yes, sir.
started shaking and backing up. And at that point, I stopped believing because I knew he was God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Yes,
You
sir.
know, and he proved it to me on many occasions. I had a brother, one of the brother Cap's son working with me, and he was supposed to be watching while I did my transactions. And I turned around one evening, and a brother had a gun to his head, saying that if I didn't give him a leather coat, he was going to blow that brother's brains out. And I said, here, man, take 2 coats. It's no big thing, you know, just don't bring any harm to the brother. Well, you know, I built up a reputation in Oakland that the people in the streets loved me. And they heard about what had happened, and they told me, brother, don't worry about it. We got him.
Allah.
You know,
yes, sir.
that's the way it used to go down in the Bay Area, brother. You know, when the people see the sincerity in you,
yes, sir.
and you treat them with respect, then you get that back.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, sir. And Brother Ronald says, Big Brother Chris, assalamu alaikum. Okay, Brother Captain, my next question is, how did you become a captain?
I became a captain, well, first, when I, in the Bay Area in 1987 through 88, in the repurchasing of Mosque Mariam, I was the secretary in the mosque in Oakland. I was what you would call the figurehead secretary, but the sister named Sister Baina Muhammad, she did all the records and paperwork. But I would be the one to go up and rally for money and talk that secretarial talk to raise money and stuff. But she was the one that did the figures and everything. And so from there, I just was soldiering and, you know, started moving brothers, and I was appointed to be the captain. I was appointed to be the captain after we reacquired the National Center. And Brother Captain Wali made me the captain in Oakland. He made me the state captain in California. He made me the Northern District captain for the Western region.
Praise be to Allah. Excellent, sir. And thank you all for watching. Brother Captain, 1 second. I want to thank the people who sponsored the podcast. I want to thank my sister Mimi for her book, ABC I Love Me, my brother Politically Oppressed for his shirts, and my second book, which is a children's book. You can get it on Amazon, called Cleopatra. Okay, Brother Captain, when you were coming up, what was the climate during the Million Man March?
The climate in the Million Man March, brother, was a wonderful, wonderful thing. You know, the minister was going around the country. Dr. Ben Chavis was going around the country. He was in the Bay Area. We walked with them and held rallies. And myself, I flew into Washington, D.C. about a week prior to the actual event. A brother Harry was a pilot, and he allowed me to have a first class ticket on United Airlines to fly to the Million Man March. Now I had a restaurant in the Bay Area, and so I was going to be there for a week. Well, I decided to take a couple of 100 pies with me, and actually sold out in a couple of days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, I still get brothers asking me now about that pie. One namely my good brother from Baltimore, Brother Carlos Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But the climate at the Million Man March, brother, we were assigned to the Lincoln Monument. And we were told to report at 5 a.m. Brother Captain Wali had put me in charge, and we could hear the ground swell, you know, as the sun began to come, you know, daybreak.
Yes, sir.
And the people were gathering, and at a certain point in time, we were called to the front because it was just so much of a compression of men moving and building up. And brother, as we walked to the steps of the Capitol, I had about 35, 40 brothers with me. And the lost found, brother, they just like parted like the Red Sea. It was a beautiful thing. And we stopped and engaged with brothers, and they just admired our discipline, and they were anxious to hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It was a beautiful thing, brother. So when we got up, I was actually able to get up on the Capitol steps along with my brother and just looked out, brother, and it was a sight to behold. I mean, I had never seen anything like it, and I never will again, more than likely. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight, and I was just glad to be a part of it.
Praise be to Allah. Brother Captain, what was the greatest trial of your tenure in Oakland as a captain, and how did you overcome that?
I haven't overcome it yet, brother, to be honest with you, because I lost a man under my charge. And so I haven't really overcome it. A brother that, by Allah's grace, was dedicated. He was a teacher at our MUI, and he worked part-time for me in my restaurant. And then we had another brother who just happened to be a coward that was getting heckled by his little lost found neighbors. And so he called his lieutenant and told him he was in duress and he needed help. And so the lieutenant called me, and I said, well, brother, go assess the situation, get a brother to go with you, assess the situation, and report back to me before you do anything. So as they went to assess the situation, the brother who called and said he needed help, you know, I got backup coming now. He gets uppity. But he looks over at the lost found, is holding a gun down at his side. And he says nothing to his brothers. He takes off running. So then the lost found rears up and starts busting. You know, so the brother, Toure Muhammad, was trying to run and got caught. He ran up to a chain link fence, and the brother unloaded on him and shot him in the back. And he passed away. He made a transition back to Allah. And your father, Abdul Sharif Muhammad, the supreme captain at that time, under instructions from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, came and put that brother out of the nation for the rest of his natural life. I would even mention his name, you know, because he was a coward.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
So that part of my tenure as a captain, you know, I haven't gotten over it yet.
Yes, sir. What was your greatest joy as being a captain?
Oh, brother, my greatest joy was just being loved by my men, and showing them love, which I believe we were taught that by your brother, Abdul Sharif, your father, taught us as men how to tell each other we love you. I love you, brother. I love you, brother. So that was my greatest joy, just being loved by my men and knowing that I could ask them to do anything and they would do. Yes, sir, brother captain, because I never asked them to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Yes, sir. Okay, excellent, sir. What advice? Okay, let me read the comments. Thank you all for watching. Brother Abdul Sabor says, "Long live brother Toure Muhammad." Brother Naima says, "All praises to Allah." Sister Miriam says, "No love or respect for cowards." Brother Ronald says, "Wow, may Allah be pleased with brother." Rashad says, "That's deep." Rashad says he hates cowards. Sister Miriam says Allah is the most merciful, and you deserve to extend that grace to yourself. It's not your fault, Brother Captain. Brother Captain, what advice would you give to future fathers?
To be loving, kind, and a good example.
Yes, sir.
You can say a lot of things, like back in the day, parents would say, don't do what I do, do what I say. Well, that don't work today. That don't work today. You got to be the right example.
Yes, sir.
And that's by showing them, we were blessed last night. We had a beautiful Ed feast, and we had a great time. And it's good to show the youth that you can have a good time with your Islam in the right environment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because we used to always tell our youth, we don't do that in Islam, but what about what we can do?
Yes, sir.
You see, that's what we need to inspire. What can we do? What can they do with their Islam? How can they have a good time and enjoy their Islam? Not, you can't do this, you can't, Muslims don't do that, Well, those who say they don't do that, they need to re-examine themselves and understand the teachings a little bit better.
Absolutely. And thank you, Brother Captain, and thank you all for watching. Brother Captain, what advice would you give to future husbands?
Future husbands, learn how to listen to your wife. Learn how to listen to your wife, brothers, because they have that instinctive ability to bring you back down to earth. I used to come home with that same captain's hat on, and she broke that thing down, brother. You ain't coming in here with that. I'm not an FOI.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm not an FOI. I'm your wife.
Yes, sir.
So we have to learn how to be flexible in our dealings with our wives, and learn how to listen carefully to understand where they're coming from, because they're not like us. They want to be made secure. They want to know that they're valued, and they want to be protected and respected.
Yes, sir. Okay, great. What is it about the what keeps you going, but Captain, after all these years, since 1972, 73, you heard it. What is it? What is it about the teachings that has you, kept you in, so strong?
There's nothing else. This is the last man standing.
Yes, sir.
And as I heard Brother Jabril Muhammad say at one time, after this, brother, you can't even go back and be an effective Negro.
Yes, sir.
So what else is there? There's nothing else for us out there, brother. This is it.
Yes, sir.
This is it.
Excellent. But Captain, I wanted to thank you. Well, on behalf of myself and my family, we want to thank you and your family for your sacrifice. But I always wanted to, ever since I was a junior FOI, you have always been loving and respectful to all of us. With your cameras and taking pictures. But you've always been a military man, and I didn't know that you had so many businesses. You remind me of my father with the businesses. Yes, sir, that's beautiful. What do you want your legacy to be, Brother Captain?
That I was a brother. That's it. I was a brother, and I was a soldier. My brother read today in a meeting. We had a little holdover with the FOI after the mosque meeting, and he read that from Abdul Rahman Muhammad's "I Am a Soldier."
Yes, sir. Yes,
brother,
sir.
If I could just live up to one paragraph of that, I'd go a happy camper,
Yes, sir.
But that's it. Just being a brother, someone that you could trust, someone that you could believe, and respect, because I respect you.
Praise be to Allah. Well, I thank you, Brother Captain, for taking time out of your day. And like you said, your father, my father tried to, help get the FOI to say I love you. So we love you, Brother Captain. And man, I'm inspired by your story, and I look forward to seeing you in person so I can talk off the record for real with some questions for you.
Yes, sir. May Allah be
Yes, sir.
pleased with your effort.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam.